Hi, I'm Adam, and today I want to tell you the story about my sleeveless deck, Gahiji the Honoured One. Now, this deck has quite a unique story. It comes from one of my previous videos at Command Fest, where I actually built this deck in 24 hours using only cards that were opened from packs, gifted to me by other players, or traded. Now, the whole process of doing that in a single day was a lot of fun and surprisingly successful. Massive shout out to all of the followers of the channel and the patrons that came specifically found me to give me some cards. You have legitimately made this a playable deck. So I thought I'd do a little sort of deck tech type thing on how the deck plays, the sort of cards that are in here. It plays surprisingly well considering how it was built. So let's have a little look at how it's put together. So Gahiji Honoured One is quite a sort of unassuming commander, not massively popular, but it is quite an interesting build, has a very straightforward plan, and can be quite political. Gahiji says whenever a creature attacks one of your opponents or a planeswalker your opponent controls, it gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Now, the whole idea of this commander is to be attacking, going wide, giving it as much of a buff as possible to your creatures, but also incentivizing your opponents to attack each other. It does help to have a bit of a gift of the gab and talk your opponents into hitting each other more than hitting you. But as far as builds go, it's quite straightforward if you were to do it the traditional way. Obviously, we didn't do it the traditional way, so some of the cards in here are absolutely perfect for Gahiji. Some of them are very fringe, absolutely unplayable in most circumstances, or just generally weak cards. You've got everything from Arid Mesa at one end of the scale in this to like Giant Beaver to really balance it out. So let's go through and have a little look at those cards. So the game plan here is to attack. We want to be attacking as often as possible, as quick as possible, and as wide as possible. A lot of the cards that I opened for this challenge came from Karlov Manor and Outlaws of Thunder Junction, and it's surprising how much of that set works with this game plan. Got a lot of good cards of haste and haste enablers, like Trailblazing Historian, which can give another target creature haste until end of turn. You've got cards like Red Herring, Frantic Scapegoat, Resilient Roadrunner, Meddling Use, all funny and awesome cards as they are, but generally weak. But in this deck they work really well, and because of the sort of card that they are, they're often ignored, which is quite useful. Additionally, we've got some all-stars, some proper haymakers of cards. My favourite is Andrag the Quake Mole. Whenever it becomes blocked, untap each creature you control, and there's another combat phase. You can also pay 7, and it has to be blocked each combat this turn if able. Making extra combats with Gahiji is great because each time you attack, Gahiji triggering and adding another +2, so it can get really out of control. I like the very random cards as well, like Woodvine Elemental with Parlay, so it looks at the top cards of everybody's libraries, and then for each non-land revealed, attacking creatures you can control get +1/+1, which is really powerful if you're getting a couple at once. And then each player draws a card, also getting you some card draw. Land Rover from Lord of the Rings is really good. Whenever 2 or more creatures you control attack a player, target attacking creature without flying gains flying. So if you're having a bit of trouble getting through to your opponents, you can just use it to go over the top. Really helpful. Thousand Moon Crackshot lets you pay to tap a creature down. You've got Rampaging Ceratops, can't be blocked except by 3 or more creatures. So if you've got a player who's not particularly going very wide on the board, you can get through your combat nice and safely. Gahiji himself is a 4/4. Being able to get the +2s on it makes commander damage quite a viable strategy as well. Now, your opponents can cotton on fairly quickly to Gahiji's potential, so protection is really, really important. And in this deck, we have a surprising amount of protection that we managed to get hold of during Command Fest. I did manage to actually get 3 of the boots. I've got Lightning Greaves, Swiftfoot boots, and Lava Spur boots, which are all giving some form of protection and haste as well. Great for protecting Gahiji, and then also moving it on to something massive coming in later when we're trying to attack as much as possible. A couple of other less seen cards for protection, but still equally fun. Bassandra Battle Seraph. Players can't cast spells during combat. Target creature attacks this turn if able. So if your opponents are kind of in a bit like, I've got to hit each other, you can force them. You can also avoid any sort of combat tricks when you're attacking. I also really like playing Respite. Prevent all combat damage that will be dealt this turn. You gain 1 life for each attacking creature. Useful if someone's coming at you, or if you've attacked out and there's some sort of shenanigans going on, you can at least gain some life back. Now, just to mention some of the more powerful cards in this deck, we did get our hands on some decent stuff. It's not all just random jank. Rhythm of the Wilds is really key in this deck for giving a load of haste, +1/+1 counters to make things bigger. Obviously, creatures can't be countered and we're playing a creature heavy deck. Assemble the Legion is a very underappreciated card as well. Early game, this will do work. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a muster counter on it, and then create a 1/1 token with haste for each muster counter on it. So this is just going to make your board get wider and wider and wider, and we can start to afford to just swing out and not care if creatures are going to die, because we're going to just replenish next turn. Playing Wide Celebration again builds the board if we want to. We can choose to make 4 2/2s, really viable when they're going to be 4 2s when you're attacking. Also, being able to return something from the graveyard to your hand, gaining life as well if we're getting particularly battered and need to help ourselves out a little bit, is pretty versatile. And then, just for mentioning, Gamble is a really fun card to play in here, because you can search library for a card, put it on into your hand, and then discard a card at random. Obviously not the greatest tutor, but it allows us to go and dig for something, and considering how the deck was built as part of a challenge, not a bad shooter at all. Now, there's only a few bits of protection, but there is a lot of removal in this deck, and as the theme seems to be, they're all quite unconventional. I've got some straight up removal spells like Not on My Watch, Fierce Retribution, Fling if we're feeling particularly spicy and need to get rid of something and don't care about our creatures. We can also force our opponents to block for something they don't want to lose using Provoke. You've got Wrap in Flames, a Tectonic Hazard, doing 1 damage to each creature or several creatures. Also, Wrap in Flames stops creatures from blocking, which is really handy. Expel the Interloper, choose a number between 0 and 10, destroy all creatures with power greater than or equal to the chosen number. So if we're going wide, and we haven't gone to combat yet, we can destroy quite a bit, then move to combat and buff our creatures and swing them. Pretty good. We do use a couple of enchantments to lock things down, so not specifically removal, but is getting something out of the way. Makeshift Binding, Realmbreaker's Grasp, both really good, and just locking something down, getting out of the way. With the constraints of building this deck, it doesn't have the most tuned mana curve. There are quite a lot of expensive creatures in here. The commander itself is 5 mana, and we kind of want to get it out as early as possible. We're also playing 3 colours, so being able to dig and fix and whatnot is really important. So we are running a lot of ramp. Just having a quick flick through, there is like 13 pieces of ramp in this deck. Classics like Kadama's Reach, Search for Tomorrow, and then less common things like Natural Connection, Case of the Locked Hothouse. Also, a decent number of creatures to get us some extra mana. Again, quite a few classics, Solemn, Steve, District Guide, Tireless Provisioner, even Lotus Cobra. We've also got a good number of commander staples for the mana rocks. I managed to get Arcane Signet as the promo for the event, along with the Reliquary Tower, so they're in the deck. But also, massive shout out to Shelf on the Patreon, who came and found me with Soul Ring, Chromatic Lantern, and even promo versions of Thought Vessel and Commander Sphere. These make the deck, they're extra bougie, and make the deck pretty playable because of being able to fix your mana. The hardest thing to get my hands on for this deck was the lands. Playing 3 colours, you need a decent amount of fixing. It's got 21 basics in. Granted, they are all entirely full art basics, which is bougie. Again, thank you to Shell for bringing those along to Command Fest. But I did manage to pull a fairly okay amount. Terramorphic Expanse, Evolving Wilds, even an Escape Tunnel for a bit of fixing. I managed to get the classics like Command Tower and Path of Ancestry. Also a couple of 2-colour lands like Elegant Parlour, which I got from a pack of Call of Mana, and Abraded Bluffs from Outlaws Stone Junction. So those sets were really holding this deck up. Then I did crack 1 Modern Horizons pack and got an Arid Mesa, which is ridiculous. I wouldn't choose normally to play an expensive card like that in a sleeveless deck, but that's the challenge, and I got it on the weekend, so it's in there. It really tilts people when I shuffle it and then they see it get played. That's part of the fun, we're getting into people's minds. And there you have it, this is my sleeveless deck. It is super fun to play. It has won multiple games, which was a surprise, even when its very first outing, when I gave it a spin at Command Fest. It flies under the radar when you explain the premise of it, because people don't expect it to be very good, and then you can often steal some wins out of nowhere. I would love to see what sleeveless decks you have, or if you're thinking about building any, please let me know. I have built other sleeveless decks for others, and they are always a laugh. They're always ridiculous. And always turn heads at the table, sometimes good, sometimes bad. If you enjoy this deck tech, I've already done Kenrith, my most expensive deck, which you can go and check out. I've also got some more coming, so keep your eyes peeled in the future, and I'll see you in the next video.